Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video for Talking Wolves, and of course it is transfer season and it wouldn't be a transfer window without a thorough analysis transfer video to go along with that. Of course this is the third now of pretty much a yearly instalment that we've got going on, where we take a thorough look at players that Wolves should sign based on a variety of statistics and obviously eye test, etc, etc. Now, of course, in 2021, we looked at our dream buys versus realistic buys. Last year, we did big bucks versus budget, and this year, we're skint. So we're doing purely budget buy players. So, what are the ground rules for today's video? Let's take a look. In this video, we will be looking at players with a market value of up to £15 million and a potential estimated cost of up to £20 million. Whilst in previous videos I've looked at specific key positions, this time around I'll be offering up options in every position. This in keeping with the idea that Wolves need a complete revamp and also just for a bit of fun. So moving on to our first position, of course, and that is goalkeeper, a position which fans have kind of been umming and ahhing about for the past 2 years. But I think after this season, it's fair to say that some of us are starting to get a little bit unconvinced by José Sá's inconsistent quality of play. So our first player for this position is going to be the Dutch international Andries Noppert, standing at a mighty 6'8". This guy has a very tall frame and benefits from that in a variety of ways. He's very quick off his line and very dominant in the air, as you would expect with that sort of build. And I think the best thing about this is that Wolves could have a goalkeeper who is able to close down strikers a lot quicker and able to get down to shots a lot quicker, as sometimes I think José Sá is a bit hit and miss with his shot stopping. Now, Noppert has only played a small amount of games for a 28-year-old, but his rise through the Dutch league has been well documented, and was almost became a policeman a couple of years ago, but has since played very well with getting a move back to his hometown side, Heerenveen, and obviously getting himself into the World Cup squad for the Netherlands. Now, I think his best asset is definitely his reflexes and also his command of his penalty area. His shots stopped percentage is really impressive, as is his save percentage. And if you're watching, if you watch highlights or video footage of him, you'll realise that whilst he does stay on his line a decent amount, when he does come out, he's able to close down angles well. He gets down well to shots, and because of his height, he has a very long wingspan. He's able to get back across goal very quickly. There's a lot of shots that are deflected and he's able to get back across and stave them, or tip things over the bar, or get down to shots that are drilled low into the corner. And I think that for Wolves that offers maybe a really decent base to build off, considering some of our defenders can be a little bit suspect aerially, and also we need goalkeepers that are able to close down spaces and be quick with their reflexes, as we do tend to give up quite a lot of opportunities from that kind of inside the penalty area. And one of the things that I noticed about Noppert was that he is very good at those sort of close range shots where he acts purely on instinct, and I think that would probably save Wolves a lot of points. Okay, our second option for goalkeeper, and maybe a more ambitious option, is Frederick Ronov, the starting goalkeeper for Union Berlin, who recently qualified for the Champions League. Now, this is not an easy deal to do. Obviously, the law of Champions League football probably means that it would be extremely difficult to get this guy in. But at 30 years old, I think he's a really solid option for us. Again, another physical goalkeeper, one of the best in Europe in the 98th percentile for crosses stopped, and also boasts an excellent save percentage and post-shot XG. Now, one of the big things about this guy is, similarly to Noppert, is his dominance in the air and his good reflexes and his bigger frame. I think Wolves, sometimes they do lack a bit of height and a bit of physical presence, and I think that has been missing, particularly from goalkeeper and centre-back. So I think that Ronov, with his experience and his ability to be able to play under pressure, having played under a counter-attacking system at Union Berlin, I think it works for him well if we do want to revert to a little bit of a more solid and defensive style of play to stop us leaking so many goals. So our third and final option, and my personal favourite pick for goalkeeper, is Yvan Diouf, the 23-year-old French goalkeeper from Stade de Reims, who of course became a little bit well known on the internet for their manager, Will Still, who had quite a lot of little jokes and stuff going on about him. But he has got his hands on an excellent young goalkeeper, and Diouf is someone that I think, with a market value of 5 million, is well worth every single penny. I think obviously one of the main things is distribution, and whilst Noppert and Ronov have sort of a longer style of distribution, Diouf is able to bring other defenders into play, which I think, considering the style of play that Lopetegui wants, I think is something that is really to be considered. He likes to bring centre-backs in and form those little triangles if you've got a back pairing of two centre-backs, which I think with Kilman, Dawson, Collins, or maybe another centre-back, maybe bringing Totti Gomez back in, could work pretty well if Gomez improves on the ball specifically. He also can distribute well to the full-backs, and also, if no passes on, he's pretty comfortable to clear the ball upfield, which is all you need really from a goalkeeper. Very much the modern image of a sweeper keeper. In terms of shot stopping, he was one of the, I think he ranked at one of the best, if not the best, save percentage in Europe, which is really impressive for a goalkeeper of his age. And for the price point, I think is certainly worth looking at. I think he offers a good physical presence, and when he has to get off his line and get involved with the action, he's normally pretty reliable as well. So with a really decent range of passing, being able to be active and being an excellent shot stopper, I think Yehvan Diouf has solidified himself as a really, really good top goalkeeper prospect. And again, market value of only 5 million. Wolves need to be looking at this guy for a long-term shot stopper, because in 3 to 4 years, that value is going to absolutely skyrocket. So certainly one to watch, and certainly one Wolves should be watching. So right back again, another position which Wolves have really struggled in recent years. I think Semedo remains a decent squad option, but Johnny certainly has to be let go, a shell of the former player that he was. But a youthful option to come in could be Elias Jellert, the Danish youth international. Really, really solid option. Only 19 years of age and finds himself as the starting right back for Copenhagen, and has played in European competition already and is consistently one of the better fullbacks in the league. He ranks highly for successful defensive actions, progressive carries and passes, and I think that he's certainly a well-rounded fullback and shows good leadership qualities, which at his youth I think is a really, really good sign. And with a market value of only 1 million, I think it's so worth trying to at least get him in for a low-cut fee. Wolves love a young fullback. We've had many over the past few seasons. We've got Bueno and Aït-Nouri at the moment. Obviously, we've had Vinagre as well. We've got Ryan Giles in the fold. So Wolves do love a progressive, young, attacking fullback. And I think Yeller offers a cheap and really solid option. Now, he might not be up to Premier League speed straight away. It's a big step up. But I think if you introduce him into the squad and for the price that you'd probably pay, I think he's certainly worth having him in for the potential. And my personal pick for this position, and possibly one of the more expensive players in this video, is Alexander Bar. Currently at Benfica, they signed him from Slavia Prague last season, and a really, really solid fullback. If you're looking at his percentiles purely, really, really well-rounded, ranks highly for tackles, interceptions, aerial duels won as well, which is a big thing, being able to have a right back that can be physical and win you the ball quickly and win you the ball as well, get you upfield in transition at a quicker pace, which sometimes I think Wolves do struggle with when we win the ball back, is getting it back up quicker. Bar has shown the ability to carry the ball, create chances, and get involved with some goal contributions as well, with 1 goal and 5 assists. Whilst it's not, anything mind-blowing, I think that if he was to do that in a debut season for Wolves, I think you wouldn't complain. A market value of only 8 million, I think you could probably double that really, looking at maybe 15 to 20 million. But if you can sell Nelson Semedo for that price point and get Bar in for the same amount of money, I think you've got an excellent bit of business there. 25 years of age, so he is younger, and he just covers all the bases that you really need in a fullback. Very energetic, good on the ball, solid in defence, good going forward. And at that price point, I think you've really, really got to look at this guy, because he certainly could be one of Wolves' better fullbacks that we've bought in recent years. Okay, so left back, maybe not a position that Wolves are particularly in desperate need for, but I certainly think that some new options and some fresh options would be good. I think whilst we all want Ryan Giles to come in, there's no guarantee that he'll be part of the first team. As is with Aït-Nouri, there's been a lot of off-the-field problems with him, so he could maybe go Totti Gomez, I think whilst he's solid, I think we do need someone with better technical ability at left back. And then obviously you've got Hugo Bueno, who can kind of play either side, but he's still young and developing. So I think that there's certainly room for Wolves to look at better left back options. Now, the first of those options is going to be Ryan Manning, who was excellent for Swansea City last season in the Championship. 5 goals and 10 assists, really, really impressive goal contributions. Excellent going forward, can play left back and left wing. And he's also a free transfer. His contract has expired. So, look, it's a no-brainer, really. For a player of his experience, he's 26, a Republic of Ireland international, so be familiar with Nathan Collins. I think that he offers Wolves excellent energy going up. Field, I think also defensively, maybe could be caught out a little bit more in the Premier League. But I think even if you switch to a 5 at the back, then you've got a really, really solid defence there. Let's say you've got Gomez, Dawson and Collins, for example. You have Barr and then Manning as fullbacks, or Manning as a left wing back, I think would be really solid. And even in a back 4, which he has played, I think you can look at him to certainly be a solid option. And for getting him on a free transfer, he wouldn't have crazy wages. I think, he could certainly contribute to Wolves going forward. And also, if he improves defensively, then you've got a really, really decent fullback there. So my second option for left back is G Smal. 2 goals and 10 assists for him last season, valued at only 5 million. I think this guy's a really good looking. Slightly taller and able to cover ground really well, reads the game well, really good at kind of spotting danger and intercepting the ball before anything kind of reaches the centre-backs. And then he's able to use kind of his larger frame or his longer legs to kind of burst forward. He's got excellent vision and passing ability, which I think is something that Wolves have lacked from their fullbacks. Just the ability to just whip in a ball right on someone's head or in a really dangerous position for someone to just tap in, I think is a really good option for Wolves to have. He kind of is the epitome of a modern fullback, where they might lose a little bit defensively but got so much quality going forward. I think actually getting him in would solve a lot of the creativity issues that Wolves have, especially sometimes from the wider areas, even central areas. Sometimes he does like to drift inside. He has got a really decent shot on him. He can finish chances. But I think the main aspect you're looking at here is for his quality in possession and his reading of the game, which is pretty solid. So moving on to centre-backs. Now, what exactly do we need in a centre-back at the moment? I think we've got some decent depth in that position, but I think we could maybe do with some players that are maybe better on the ball, a bit more physical and a bit more proactive. So our first option is Ryan Flamingo, and first of all, what a name, and second of all, he's worth only 2 million according to Transfermarkt, which is a respectable value. Young centre-back, a tall, athletic, progressive centre-back, is able to bring the ball out well from defence. He's good with his passing, and from what I've seen of him, he shows good technical ability. He's had an impressive season out on loan at Vitesse. His parent club is Sassuolo, so if he's surplus to requirements there, I think you could get him for a pretty cheap fee. I think what strikes me about him is his high interception numbers and the fact that he's imposing, which is what you want. I think oftentimes Wolves centre-backs are caught a little bit flat-footed and more reactive rather than proactive, but this guy reads the danger well. He's always on his toes. He's always first to intercept. And I think with so much potential, I think the price point for him is really solid. And for someone who can bring the ball out well and is comfortable on the ball and still has a high ceiling to improve, I think the price point's perfect. Okay, option number 2 is the Portuguese. Yes, we are going back to Portugal for this one. And it's Felipe Relvas, one of the most well-rounded players I actually came across during my research. Of course, played in a Portimonense side that had a really strong defence last season, and it shows in his statistics. Really well-rounded defensive numbers, scores highly in most of his percentiles, and I think is a player that if we were to need a player that was purely defensive and just a rock at the back, akin to Craig Dawson, I think he's the one to go for. In fact, if you actually look at his FB Ref profile, his numbers far outstrip a lot of big, really good Premier League centre-backs. Now, obviously that has something to do with Portimonense's style of play, but Wolves have been a bit more defensive and tentative in recent years, and even him and even Relvas far outstrips Craig Dawson's numbers. So I think that tells you something, at least about his defensive ability, rather than the style of play that he's playing in. His market value is also only 2 million. So if you're looking at someone to kind of be a bit of more of a kingpin and maybe solidify Wolves a little bit more, I think he's a great option. Still only young, and a lot of whispers in Portugal. I've seen quite a few people who follow Portuguese football on social media and stuff talking highly about this guy, and maybe he's been, I've seen a few people touting him as replacements for teams in Benfica. There's obviously a lot of people in Portugal that rate him highly, and from what I've seen of him as well, I think he's a really solid player. We could get him on a really cheap deal. I think our transfer record from the Liga NOS has not been too bad overall. So I think he'd be a pretty safe bet if you look at his numbers and his overall defensive play. I think maybe on the ball would be the main sort of concerns. But if you're looking at someone kind of backs against the wall to kind of head the ball out, that's good at intercepting and reading the game, I think he's perfect. Okay, and on to our final option and the best of the bunch. It's the highly rated Kenyan international, Joseph Okumu. This guy is unbelievable. Really, really solid ball-playing centre-back. He's excellent with his feet. He's athletic, aggressive, always plays on the front foot in defence. Got a lot of clubs interested in him around Europe, but with a market value of only 4 million. It's easy to see why a lot of clubs are taking an interest. Did really well in Sweden before moving to Genk, and he's been even better since then. Gets really high defensive numbers. He clocked in at one of the fastest centre-backs, if not, I think, the fastest centre-back in Sweden, and he's carried that athleticism over. He's impressed in the Conference League and in the Belgian Pro League as well. So I think this guy's a real looking for a really, really solid replacement. I think Wolves, since Willy Boly, have kind of lacked that defender with the elegance and physicality combined. I think obviously Willy Boly in his first couple of seasons made things look so easy. He just was so good at winning the ball in the air, was comfortable on the ball and was able to step out. He was quick. I think Wolves have missed that a little bit, and Okumu, I think, is the perfect replacement. And again, really good value, fantastic ceiling for him really in the Premier League. And for someone to be able to be fast, reading the game well, aggressive with his headers, aggressive with his tackles, steps in before anyone else can sort of react or read the danger. He's just ahead of his peers by a long stretch in the Belgian Pro League, and I think he's definitely one of the centre-backs that a lot of clubs will be looking at. And I think if Wolves are looking to maybe try and find or target niche markets, Joseph Okumu is the guy to get at centre-back. Okay, moving on to central midfielders. Now, central midfielder was a little bit of a tough one. Obviously, we do have decent depth in terms of ball winning and ball retention midfielders like Lamina and João Gomez. But I think apart from that, with Neves and Moutinho leaving and with Joe Hodge potentially going out on loan, I think we do lack some serious depth. And Matheus Nunes has been a little bit hit and miss as a kind of a dynamic or Metzala role kind of central midfielder. So I think that we need midfielders, again, with legs that can contribute going forward, which is pretty similar to what we needed last season. So our first option for central midfielder is Coventry City's star man from last season, Gustavo Hamer. Previously mentioned on the channel in the Championship players that Wolves should sign. Go and check that one in the link, by the way. Really good midfielder. Amazing numbers for progressive carries, passes, etc, etc. You know the drill. And obviously really solid goal contribution numbers as well, in double digits for both goals and assists, I think. A really good season for him in the Championship, and he was good last season. He's improved year on year at Coventry, and I think that when you're looking at someone that could be potentially cheaper than other options Wolves have mentioned, like Alex Scott, for example, then I think he's probably a good option to go for. 25, so still reasonably young, and you can definitely make your money back if he performs well in the Premier League. He offers goal contributions from midfield, which is something Wolves have lacked, and he times his runs very well. He's a decent creator, good from set pieces, which again is something that Wolves have severely lacked since Barry Douglas left. So I think Gustavo Hamer offers a really decent option for that kind of energetic and progressive midfielder role. Okay, next up is maybe a slightly ambitious move, but I think that Wolves potentially could get it done. It is Rayo Hata from Celtic, Japanese, now a fully fledged Japanese international, earning his first cap in the latest call-ups last month. and has been an unbelievable player for Celtic so far. Really, really solid midfielder that likes to get forward, can contribute as well on the goals and assists front, shows a lot of energy. I think he's not exactly someone that's going to race into the box, but he's very active in and around the edge of the penalty area and offers Wolves a chance to have that extra body going forward. He's very good at winning the ball back high up the pitch, which I think if Wolves need someone more press resistant or to be a better pressing team themselves, I think Hatate is incredibly important for that. He's played a pivotal role in Celtic's midfield three under Ange Postecoglou. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't try and get him to Spurs. But I think that Hatate really offers a kind of option that Wolves haven't really had, and offers someone with technical quality and tenacity in midfield that I think would get a lot of fans off their seats. Okay, and our final option for central midfield is, of course, a player that we have been perennially linked with for the past couple of transfer windows. It is Bristol City's young starlet Alex Scott, England youth international, and probably in the next 3 years a fully fledged England international, if we're being honest. Definitely Premier League ready. I think the most expensive player by far in this video. I've kind of pushed the limit a little bit with a market value of 20 million. I think if we were to allocate one spot for a player that's above the kind of price range set, I think Alex Scott is the player that I would probably go for a multitude of reasons. Very composed on the ball, good at winning the ball back. He's a very well-rounded midfielder and obviously still very young as well at 19. Shows tremendous leadership qualities as well, and is kind of everything. Runs the midfield for Bristol City at the moment, which when you consider how the trajectory of Jude Bellingham, who was performing at a similar level for Birmingham City, just running the show a little bit in midfield at a young age, I think that Alex Scott is well worth the money if we are to believe that the figure is about 20 to 25 million to bring him in. Whilst he is more expensive than the other options and maybe his goal contribution numbers aren't quite what you would want, I think that he still offers so much potential and the ability to give Wolves a midfielder with a real strong all-round game that can make up for what we've lost with Ruben Neves and Moutinho, because you've got the tenacity, the passing range, and then you've got even more pace, really, someone that can carry the ball. So I think that Alex Scott is pretty much, if you bring him in, I think he covers everything you lose in Neves and Moutinho, and you gain aspects of Matheus Nunes in that player as well. So very well all-round midfield, and one that Wolves should definitely look at. Okay, so moving on to wingers. We've got 2 left wingers and 2 right wingers. So we will start with right wing, and our first option at right wing is Vaclav Cerny. Now Cerny has had a really good season out at Twente, another Twente player that we are taking a look at, but really good numbers, double figures for goals and assists. And if you look at his percentiles as well, a player that can really carry the ball well and make use of space in behind. He's also a really intelligent runner, a little bit Raheem Sterling-esque sometimes, likes to make runs at the back post. He times his runs very well, almost like a centre forward, which I think is something that Wolves have kind of lacked from their wingers in recent years, is the ability to have a sort of forwards instinct to get into the penalty area and find good positions to score goals. Now, whilst this is his first really incredible season numbers wise, I do think it's worth taking the punt. A little bit more of an expensive option potentially if Twente value him really highly. But if his transfer market value is anything to go by at 4 million, you would be absolutely ridiculous not to take a look at this guy. As I mentioned before, his progressive carries and passes numbers are extremely high, and also his shot creating actions, which is so important because Wolves seriously lack wingers that can just create something out of nothing, and being able to create chances and shots on goal is something that, 1, gets fans off their seats, 2, gives Wolves momentum, and 3, gives us more of a foothold in forward positions. A lot of the time it's like we're scared to shoot, we want to pass the ball into the back of the net. It's just not going to happen sometimes, particularly with the lack of quality we have going forward. So I think having a winger that's more direct, pacey, able to find good positions and make shots for themselves and other people, I think that's really, really important. Okay, our next option for winger is Mike Tresor. This guy is the player to get this year. 24 assists. Yes, 24 assists in the Belgian league this year and has shown a real good range of technical and physical qualities you need in a winger. He's very pacey and direct. He has excellent delivery from crosses and set pieces, corners, free kicks, and also, just general play. I think he's the sort of winger that you would look to as the creator. Obviously, only getting 7 goals, I think, but that 24 assists is ridiculous. I've never seen a numbers like that from a winger. I think he will be on the more expensive side, obviously, but I think a move to the Premier League is obviously what he's looking for. I know Burnley have been linked with him. So I do think that he could be within our price range. And with a player that's able to create and be a bit more direct and get real quality crosses in, I think is something, again, that Wolves have lacked from wide positions. I think he finds space very well. He's got excellent vision as well. Some of his passes are almost, like a central midfielder's. I mean, De Bruyne would be proud of some of the passes this guy can do. And I think that's important, really, for someone who can either play in that attacking midfield role or on the wing. I think I've put him in winger, but he does play centrally quite a lot. I've kind of squeezed him in a little bit, but I think having flexibility in terms of positions is good. I mean, if we want to play Cunha in a front two, you could potentially have Tresor in behind a front two. That would work really well as well. Yeah, there's options there to play him in. You get a winger that can offset the loss of pace with Adama. Obviously, no one is anywhere near as quick as Adama, but I think Tresor does show a really good burst of pace. And you get a little bit more quality from your delivery as well. I know Adama's crosses are nothing to be sniffed at. They are pretty good, but Tresor is just a whole another level. And if you're looking at someone like bringing Kalajic back into the fold, again, like I mentioned previously, being able to have real quality delivery from the wide areas is so important. Okay, our next option for the winger position is Vincenzo Grifo. Now, this guy is probably a little bit on the old side at 30 years of age. He's not the paciest, but he does make up for that with really impressive technical ability and vision. Finds space very well and is able to work well with other forward players to create chances. And also he's got a rocket of a shot on him. Scored a lot of goals this season for Freiburg. Italian international as well. Obviously, Italians are a little bit hit and miss coming to the Premier League. But I think Grifo offers something different. Wolves don't really have... I think he's not so much Sarabia-like, but, that mould of winger that isn't going to be like an Adama or a Neto and just try and burst past players. He's a little bit more cute than that. Relies on other things such as his physical prowess. He's a tall winger, but he's very good with his feet. And he's not going to drive you 40 yards up the pitch, but he's going to find space well and combine well with forwards and progressive central midfielders. So he kind of is a very much a team player and has the end product to back it up. So I actually think this guy would be really, really decent looking. I think he's very underrated when it comes to Bundesliga wingers, and having read things in comments and social media, I think that is the general consensus that he is quite an underrated player. And that he does have the qualities to be able to transfer to the Premier League. This guy also generates a lot of power on his shots. This guy has a real thunder strike in him, and I think that offers something different, a different outlet for Wolves, a different danger, and kind of keeps things fresh and exciting and difficult to trace, really, because if you've got kind of a variety of wingers that can do different things, I think that kind of covers the base as well. And obviously he's got a lot of experience. He's been solid for a number of years. He's shown that he can get a really good amount of goal contributions across a season. And I think at the moment for Wolves, just being able to have someone that can do that is obviously a big plus. And the last winger for this video is Joseph Paintsil, again from Genk. Another Genk player. We've got quite a lot in this video, but they have had some real standout talents this year, it's fair to say. A little bit more on the pacier side. I think he is a bit more of an Adama type with more sort of end product, obviously. Really solid numbers for Genk this season. And another player that, again, I think would be cheaper than Tresor. I think he is kind of just the cheaper option than Tresor. A bit more of a goal scorer, though. Scored a lot more goals than Tresor this season, has excellent finishing ability, times his runs very well, and again is a decent creator with double figures in assists. So I think you're looking at a really well-rounded winger. I think a lot of clubs will be going for Tresor, and maybe Paintsil won't get the kind of recognition that he deserves. So I think Wolves could kind of steal in there and get him for a decent fee. He's valued at around 8 to 10 million. I think you could probably pay 15 and get him. And I think that he would be the sort of player that Wolves can rely on to do a little bit of everything from the wing. Again, very direct, likes to beat his man and get a cross in, or he can come inside, make really good runs and get himself in good positions in the penalty area. So, you know, we've got a really good, I think across the 4 options for wing that we've got here, I think there's some really, really solid options that all contribute slightly different things. You've got a lot of wingers there that can contribute numbers and also offset some of the losses that Wolves might feel with players like Adama or maybe Pedro Neto leaving, because you can get those direct wingers in that have got pace and legs to get Wolves up the pitch and beat players, but also I think a lot more end product, or potential to have a lot more end product there. And I think with these options you get a lot more bang for your buck. So you sell Adama, you sell Neto maybe, you get a couple of these guys in, I think you've already upgraded your attack and Wolves would have much better options. Okay, so for centre forward, we've got a few different types of players here, a few different types of profiles. So we'll start off with the pure goal scorer type, just someone that's going to make runs, get the ball, finish chances. And that is Circle Bruges' Ayase Ueda, another Japanese player. Only 2 this video, which I think is pretty good going. Really, really just good pure finisher. One touch, shoot kind of player. Gets the ball out of his feet well. I think he's also quite a decent all-round striker. He has deceptively good physical strength. He can turn off defenders and centre-backs very well. And again, his finishing is just really incredible. Scores a variety of chances. He's decent in the air. And I think if you're looking at someone that can purely just finish chances, I think that he is the player to go for. He's maybe not quite the Jimenez type that is going to bring others into play. He's not really a creator, only 2 assists. But I think Wolves sometimes, I think maybe in the system we could go for something a little bit different and maybe use the wingers as more of the creators to kind of just feed Ueda. I think he has transferable skills that can do well in the Premier League. He's pacey, he has really good movement. He times his runs well. He's an excellent finisher, and he can finish quickly as well. He can, he can finish in essentially 2 touches. All he needs is to get it out of his feet and, find the bottom corner. So I think he's a player that Wolves could really, really make good use of, and he's valued at only about 3.5 million, which is ridiculous. Whilst Wolves don't create a lot, if you do get those creators into the side, having someone there to just finish them off, I think is perfect. I don't think you necessarily need someone or need a striker exactly like Raul Jimenez that is going to be kind of the player that you can play off, that can create. I think sometimes with Jimenez he had a tendency to drift a little bit too wide, so I think at least with Ueda there you have a striker that's just going to stick in the penalty area and he's just going to get on the end of chances. Okay, our next option is another player that we have been linked with, and it's Viktor Gyökeres, the Swedish player, of course plying his trade at Coventry. He's going to be linked with a lot of clubs this season, and I think it's fair to see why, to be honest. Very well-rounded player and very much kind of the Raul Jimenez replacement. I think he shows good speed, he's got the physical stature to make the step up. He is very much a like-for-like replacement to the early sort of Jimenez days that we had. A player that can carry the ball by himself sometimes, beat defenders with really good bits of footwork, finishes well, can bring other players into play. I think in terms of a replacement for Jimenez, he's as good as you get. And for the price point of about 15 to 20 million, I think it's an absolute steal for a player of his quality. And he's shown over a couple of seasons in the Championship that he can do it consistently. This isn't just one breakout season for him. He's done it for a couple of years now, and he's shown that he does have the quality to make the step up. I think he would be a lot more expensive than Ueda, but I think you're getting a much more rounded striker that can rely on other aspects of his game, and I think is probably a little bit more suited to what Lopetegui wants in a striker. We don't particularly know what system or style Lopetegui is going to go for, so I think Gyökeres could be a really good fit if we were to stick with that kind of same Raul Jimenez striker system. Okay, so the last player for this video is the Georgian, 22-year-old George Mikhail Tadze, who plays for Metz in the French second division. Unbelievable season for him this year. Also getting north of 20 goals. And a player that I'm glad to see linked with Wolves, because he's been one of the sort of hidden gems of the French second division. There's a lot of talent in France at the moment. And obviously getting Boubacar Traoré as well from Metz. So, you know, Metz have had some decent talents come through their ranks in recent years, and this guy is probably the pick of the bunch. One of the most impressive things about Mikhail Tadze is just how good of a dribbler he is, and his pace and his ability on the ball. It's not very often that you see strikers that look almost like wingers. He's a very, very good dribbler with a low centre of gravity. The ball just seems to stick to him. He has an excellent burst of pace, really tricky for defenders to get a hold of, and his finishing is really, really impressive as well. It's a very, very good mix for a striker to have. The dribbling ability and the ball retention and the low centre of gravity of, you know, a really good winger, and the finishing of a top poacher as well. I think it's an excellent combination, and still really young. Obviously, Ligue 2 and the Premier League is a big, big step up. There's a big gap there. But I think he's got a lot of potential. He's not the tallest, he's a little bit diminutive, but like I said, that low centre of gravity really helps him, because he can just turn away from players very quickly. He's agile, he finds space. You know, in and around the penalty area, he's really dangerous, manages to find any corner you want, really. And then you've also got an option of, you know, if you're playing on the counter-attack, a striker that can really drive the ball forward and create chances for himself, which is something that Wolves, again, haven't always had. So I think that he's a kind of all-action centre-forward that combines traits of a really good winger and a really good centre-forward. And it makes for a really, really interesting profile of player to keep an eye out on. And I think if Wolves were to go in for him and get him for a good price, I think you've got a really, really solid young player on your hands there that could definitely catch a few off guard in the Premier League. Okay, that is it for this video. If you did enjoy, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to Talking Wolves for all the latest transfer news this summer, and obviously content going forward into next season. If you have any suggestions of your own, please leave them in the comments. If you like the suggestions that I picked, make sure to let me know as well. Any support and feedback is always appreciated. Hopefully Wolves can maybe take a look at this and get some of these players over the line to help us going into next season. But until the next video, we hope to see you soon.